Hey then guys, welcome back. It's LSP. It's currently the 10th of May 2021. Before I go into the video, as always, these are just my thoughts and opinions. Don't listen to anything that I say because I have no idea what I'm talking about. Stay safe, be smart, follow your plan, and don't do anything stupid with your money. So, it's been a while since I've sat down and managed to post anything. I've just been extremely busy, but I wanted to get something out tonight because I want to kind of keep the consistency going. I'm going to start with Bitcoin and kind of run through to CHSB, where we'll probably stop. I don't want to do too much in this video and kind of save the next video to do a complete analysis of everything because they tend to be quite long and I don't want to drag things on in this video. The full analysis video can generally go up to about half an hour, sometimes 40 minutes, as I'm going through all of these pairs. And we've had some additions, Chili's, and Utrust, for example, recently. So I want to be able to kind of go through those properly and do a complete price breakdown on everything that we're seeing, so we've got a good idea of where we could potentially be headed in the future. But for now, I'm going to do Bitcoin, a little bit of Ether, and then focus on Swissborg. So with Bitcoin, for me, Bitcoin has been lagging quite a lot relative to everything else that we're seeing in the crypto market. Now, what I mean is this: when you look at the broad spectrum, of cryptocurrencies and the crypto market in general, Bitcoin's obviously it. That's the one. That's the the benchmark. The one that most people pay attention to. It's the one that's the most common. The one that's the most popular. And you'll find that people look at Bitcoin to kind of gauge whether or not the crypto market is strong, weak, what could be happening. Sometimes the only thing people look at is Bitcoin and all of this other stuff is irrelevant, for example. But we've not really been seeing that with Bitcoin. We've seen many tokens have been pumping. We've seen many currencies or cryptocurrencies have been showing strength. Ether being one of them, for example, that are becoming the forerunners in the marketplace, and Bitcoin's kind of lagging behind. Now, that may be by design. That doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin's lost its fervor, by any means. Bitcoin is still the number one. But we have to be mindful of this and try to figure out what does that mean for price. Yeah, I have a very firm belief that Bitcoin's going to be, much, much higher. It will pass 100,000 at one point, even if. Okay, and I'll say it like this just to kind of really put things into perspective. Even if Bitcoin turns out to be, to the detriment of millions of people around the world that are holding Bitcoin, even if it tanks to its death and disappears, even if it's the worst case scenario, okay, think about this logically. If Bitcoin was ever going to be used, to do a transfer of wealth and steal people's money, as we've seen many times in the stock market, 401ks, pension funds and all of this crazy stuff, insurance companies and whatever, if that was ever going to happen on Bitcoin, wouldn't it make sense to drive it to 100,000 to just get everybody to pile in and then tank it? Yeah. So it's going to see 100,000, right? This is just experience talking. It's common sense. It is going to see 100,000. But even with that said, okay, right now, technically, with the flows the way they are, I'm seeing, stabilizing in this area, and I'm also seeing a little bit more downside, okay? And the most logical place for me, based on what we're seeing, is I think we're going to end up down here again, okay? Don't quote me on this, okay? I've been pretty accurate so far with Bitcoin, with the way it's moving, not just in the videos, with my own personal analysis. I'm around about 85 to 90%, on Bitcoin at the minute in terms of accuracy. But I've got a sneaky suspicion that we're probably going to end up down somewhere in this area, maybe 5,000, maybe a little bit lower, maybe a little bit above, and we'll probably drive towards this level here, where there's a liquidity build-up, basically. No, get rid of that one. Where there's a liquidity build-up. Just here, it's just ripe to be traded to this area down here, 52-ish, 52,500, a little bit lower, and then dip into this liquidity pool, which is a very, very strong liquidity pool. It makes perfect sense for Bitcoin to drop into this area. Now, of course, it may turn and it may rip to the upside, fine, whatever. But the way the flows are, the way things are moving, doesn't make any sense to me. I'm seeing much lower prices from where we are now. I said that wrong. Not much lower, but I'm seeing lower prices from where we are right now. And this area just here really stands out to me. Just here, these two lows, okay, this imbalance and this liquidity pool. So that's what I'm expecting for Bitcoin. Around about 50,500, maybe a little bit lower, yeah, in the near future. So we'll see if that pans out. If it does, and remember as well, whenever I give these I want to say forecast, but whenever I talk about these price levels, I want to make a very clear distinction between something, because again, obviously, you guys know I get a lot of emails, DMs, and so on, and I want to be absolutely clear about something. Just because I'm saying that Bitcoin, is looking like it's going to go to 5,000, that doesn't mean I'm shorting it or I'm using that information to take a trade or or an investment or anything like that. What I do, and what any trader or investor should do, okay, is be mindful of these levels, have a plan around that idea, and if it happens, execute. If it doesn't, then wait for the next thing to pan out. And this is important. If Bitcoin drops, okay, and comes into this area, I can do something with that. But where it is right now, I can't do anything. Now, if Bitcoin turns and it starts to grind upwards, and let's say it gets past 60,000, for example, and starts to stabilize around about 62,000, my attention immediately goes to to all-time highs, and then everything shifts again. The way I'm perceiving the market, what I'm looking to do with Bitcoin will change completely. Yeah. Whereas right now, I'm not looking to do anything until A or B happens. Once A or B happens, then I can act accordingly. As it stands right now, though, as we are here live in this moment, I'm seeing low prices, and the flows are indicating that we are going to come down here, and that we could potentially be testing this area down here, rebalance, and then a test of this very strong liquidity pool. All right. Ether's obviously grinding up. It's very, very strong. For me, what I want to really sort of emphasize now is the monthly chart, because we accelerated, slowed down a little bit, and then it's acceleration, and you can see this last month now, big acceleration. I think this is going to be the one that's going to capitulate. Don't quote me on this. I'm just talking again from experience. It's looking like it's getting a little bit stretched out. We can see that it is dealing off liquidity as it's going up. So this monthly candle, when it changes, this monthly candle, as strong as it looks, is dealing off on the way up. So it's not as capitulating as it should be, or as it looks, it's not going parabolic yet, meaning there's a dry up of liquidity and there's simply nobody else left to jump into the marketplace, so it has to turn and go the other way. We are seeing that, but it's a very loose seeing that so far, okay? Simply because when we drop down to the lower time frames, we can see it's doing it slowly. It's grinding. It's accelerating a little bit, then it's dealing off liquidity, dealing off. Then it's accelerating a little bit, then it's dealing off, and it's taking its time. Okay, so it's a nice, efficiently traded price delivery that we see on the daily, yeah, within this big, strong monthly candle, right? And the subsequent moves, or the previous moves up to this point. So still strong. Could see 44 to 4,500, I believe we're probably going to see, maybe higher, but that's what I see in the near future. And Ethereum is again showing some insane strength, which doesn't look like it's subsiding as of yet. And Swissborg, obviously with Swissborg, I'm not going to go into the news or anything that's Swissborg related. I'm sure we're all aware at this point. For those of you who aren't, they Community Premium is going to be released quite soon, probably in the coming days, but it will be this week. We've also got double yield now on CHSB. We have a nice explosive move, or we had a nice explosive move, which took all-time highs and created a new high since the AMA, or during the MMA, and then since then we've kind of eased off a little bit. There was some profit taken up here, which is obvious, we can see that, and price stabilized a little bit, did try to pop a bit more, but you can see just based on the wicks and the tails and what it's doing, after the initial AMA response and pump, we kind of came back down and pretty much erased all of that, and then some, about halfway down into all of this, and you can see the area that it stopped at is right in the middle of this liquidity pool effectively, and it is literally right in the middle. You can see it, bang in the middle. It's reacted there and it's moved away nicely. So there's been a little bit of accumulation just down there, but we can see with these wicks and tails this kind of back and forth and stabilizing within this new range. And what did we say? We had all of this down here, right, stabilizing between around about 85 to 110-ish, 85 to, we'll call it 85 to 115, okay, 0.85 to 115, and it was there for a while, and then obviously, we started to grind up, AMA drop, and then we've come down, and we said 125 to 140 is going to be the new bracket. That seems to be the case so far, showing, it's showing that it wants to stay here for a little while. It is possible, because anything's possible, that we do drop and we come down to retest this area down here, which would be a bit strange if that happened, to be honest, based on the flows and accumulation scale, and with the shifting flows that we've had to the upside, it doesn't really make sense. So I'm not highly confident that that's going to happen. It's just a possibility, so just be mindful of that. Will it stay down there? Absolutely not. If CHSB for whatever reason drops into this liquidity pool down here, it's not staying there. Okay, so if anybody's lucky enough to catch that, and I'm talking about maybe a 5% chance of that happening, I'm certainly not expecting it, and I'm certainly not saying it's going down there. It's just, it's the experience in me. There's a little voice in the back of my head saying, say it, so I'm saying it, yeah. And that's, you'll always get that from me. You'll always get my experience, and you'll always get honesty. It's a possibility, maybe 5%, yeah. So if anybody's lucky enough to catch it down there, because it will be quick, then great. But going forward in the coming weeks and months, I am expecting Swissborg, to slowly start to grind to the upside. We still have to work this off, guys, yeah. Remember, this was a pop above all-time highs and then some profit taking and a drop, okay. So it's going to take some time now for things to cycle through, for the scalar distribution, okay, or accumulation distribution from buy and sell. The scales need to balance out a little bit, and all of this is going to take time. This is why it's dealing in this area. It's dealing off, it's stabilizing. Then you get a little bit of a drop, and it does what? It accumulates in a liquidity pool. Now, do we know it's accumulating buy or sell? We do. Yeah, I'm not going to discuss that, okay, but I will say this: if you drop down to the lower time frames, you can kind of get a feel for how that drop, okay, in this accumulation here is either a buy or sell based on what happened here and how this was dealt off, and what that dealing off, okay, here was. Was it a dealing off of buy liquidity or sell liquidity? How do we know? Well, we need to find out where the pickup was that it dealt off here. So you look further back and you start to figure things out. You start to get an idea of accumulation and distribution, because remember, we all believe that Swissborg is going higher. We wouldn't be in it if we didn't, and we certainly wouldn't believe in the company if we thought Swissborg was a waste of time. Yeah, of course we believe it's going higher. So it makes logical sense, right, to think that it's just constantly being accumulated. Yeah, if it's going to go high and we believe it's going to go high, then doesn't it make sense that people are buying it? So the accumulation has to be to the buy side. No, yeah, it's actually incorrect thinking. The ebb and flow of buy and sells happens all the time, constantly. Yeah, we know this. It's just the normal function of supply and demand, the normal function of facilitation of trade, both sides of the marketplace. This is just how a market is made. But what's interesting is there can be a huge accumulation of buy liquidity or buy orders, yeah, while price is going up, and it can also happen while price is going down, yeah, because if you had massive pockets and you can just keep buying this regardless of whatever the price is, because it's irrelevant, right, your average cost is always going to be at a point where you can still break even and make money, yeah. So wouldn't it make sense that there is huge buys and huge sells all happening while it's going up and down, both sides, vice versa, and so on? Of course, absolutely. So when we're looking at this this example, it is possible that this dealing off of liquidity was sell liquidity that it picked up, say here, for example, or here. It isn't, but I'm just saying it is an example that that could be the case. Yeah. And if I've lost you, don't worry. Just keep watching the videos and go back, and listen to the things that I've just said again. It will click, trust me. But that's Swissborg for now. I don't want to go into anything else with Swissborg because that's effectively it. The takeaway from today is this with Swissborg CHSB. Okay, this is the takeaway. Price needs to deal off this effectively. Yeah, it needs to sort this out. This drop here, the initial run and the drop, and this stabilizing here is healthy. It needs to happen, and this is what, this is what takes time. Yeah. Just to really emphasize this point, I'll go back to Ether, and I will tell you, when you look at the monthly chart like this, let's say it rips to 5,000, yeah, in the next couple of days, and it does it really quick, really fast, that last little portion, that's reaching for liquidity, and there's just nothing left, and then you get a drop that erases the entire month when it's sitting at, say, 2.6. How many times have you seen price rip to the upside, reverse, let go of its all of those gains, okay, and then start to do this? Yeah, so it's ripping, capitulation, bang, reverses, starts to drop, stops wherever it wants to stop, and then it starts to go like that, sideways. Yeah. Anybody that's been around long enough will know exactly what I'm talking about. The question is, why does price do that? Yeah. And that's the question that you need to ask yourself based on everything else, of course, that I've said today up to this point. Right? So that gives you a better idea of this and why it needs to just chill, do its thing, deal off whatever it needs to deal off, pick up the next round, coil, bang, and then obviously go for these all-time highs, because it can't all-time high, retest all-time highs, make a new all-time high, make a new all-time high, make a new all-time high. It can't do all of that within a short space of time. It takes time for this stuff to, to kind of unfold. So I'm going to leave it at that, guys. I hope everybody's doing great. I hope everyone's had an awesome day. And I will definitely catch up with you guys during the remainder of the week. I'll be chatting, a little bit more active in the chat. Just been super busy. I do apologize. I've not had a chance to get around to doing this video. And I will catch up with you guys either in the chat, in the Smart Talk, in DM, in email, in video, and possibly outside on the streets. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Take care, guys. I'll speak to you soon.